Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? You'll be pleased to know that I'm not streaming this morning. I'm having some technical difficulties, but I've gone back and listened to my voice, and some of those streaming videos, it's kind of crap at first. It takes me a minute to find my stride, and then sometimes, I don't know, just hasn't been the best. I need to work on it. So I'm just going to do this as a YouTube video the way I have been doing this before. The show is Who Am I? We are talking about source energy. And I was thinking about it this morning, thinking about my process of finding my voice and what voice is this that I am trying to find. Am I doing a show that's going to be discussing, teaching everybody what the nature of reality is, the vibrational nature of this universe and how your emotions work and how how the vibrational frequencies work, the attraction and repulsion, the spin am I teaching people that? Because I do have a practical side to the show. Or am I assuming that we all understand that and then take off and riff from there in a totally non-resistant place where we just talk about possibilities? Sometimes I don't really know what my show is. Am I telling you who I am? Am I talking about who we are? Yes to both of those. Ultimately, the very most successful I would be is if I caused you to question who you are. In a positive way. Release all of the spirits, the energies, the way you've got them organized. Release to the unconditional. Center to your grounded self in utter non-resistance. Reach for your inner being. Now, turn your light back on who you are and everything you know and let it reorganize from there. And probably nobody understood what I just said, and that's okay. I understood what I just said. That little piece of instruction. So what are we really talking about here? We are going to talk about energy and frequency and vibration and possibility and identity and consciousness and energy. And I don't know how we're going to talk about it because I'm just going to kind of let myself float and flow into this topic. And from a good feeling place, I'm going to talk about humanity, our problems, our glories, all of our tools, the tools that we have at our disposal. We're going to talk about a lot of things, actually. And it's not, I don't really know exactly how it's going to happen because I'm just going to click the two of myselves together more perfectly than I am doing right now. And we're going to jump off on a riff about reality, about the nature of reality and this holy, spell that, WHOLEY, holy divine matrix that we are embedded and abide in. Now, I know that sounds kind of like religious wonky talk. I get that. I understand that. And, at some point when you're talking about source, you kind of have to go there. You have to go to a place where some people might find it controversial because they're locked in a different way. And I respect the direction they're locked in. What they don't understand is the nature of their own consciousness and how very, very flexible their own consciousness is, and how it's designed to take on new thought, to lay down, to try on any thought that you want. You can try on beliefs. You can put them into the operating system, run them through the program, feel how all of that feels as it runs through, and decide whether or not you want to keep it in the program or not. If you don't want to keep it in the program, if some belief that you've had, you ferreted out as being, okay. This is also what happens when I riff without structure. Is sometimes I get I sort of riff myself into a blind alley where I find myself esoterically picking apart something in minute detail that the audience probably has completely lost touch with what I'm talking about. So forgive me for that. I'm trying to find my legs. In talking about source energy, it is impossible to not talk about consciousness, because the mathematics of this and the structure of you leads you directly to a discussion of consciousness. You can't get away from it. Not if you're really, really talking about the nature of life as it relates to you and how you operate your machinery. Because even as you listen to this show, as you walk through your life, you are operating your machinery. You can't help but do it. So let's talk about how it works. Let's talk about who we are. Let's talk about what the possibilities are. I'm going to riff myself into a purely positive place here where we're going to talk about so humanity is doing really well. They are doing really well. We are well on our way in so many areas to getting that world we're looking for. Many things are improving. If you keep your attention focused in that direction, not naively, I have studied darkness in my life, and I have cried many tears for sad, horrible things, big ones. I usually save my big cries for big things, like massive tragedies like genocide or sixth mass extinction. Actually, the worst day I ever spent in my whole life, as far as the violence of the emotions that racked me, as far as the intensity in that moment and the duration of the bawling about what I discovered. The worst day I ever spent was one after I studied and looked into the internet and saw. I peered in to see the plight of Korean food dogs. And it was devastating. And I can't stay here. The point is, I want a better world. I want a better world. And apparently the way to get it is to not focus on the specifics of the tragedies. Like I didn't want to spend even 15 seconds there, because the law of attraction was going to hand me another and another, and that whole view was going to open back up. And it was going to bring me to a disconnection from my source. I was so disconnected that day. I felt so bad. But you know what? When you understand the true nature of this universe, you realize that all the cards are actually in our hand. The trick and the difference between what it is and what we think it is that we don't know that we are holding all the cards. And that's where awareness comes in. When you become aware of the structure of the universe and who you are as a consciousness and who you are as a vibrational being connected to all others, with your inner being tending to your vortex of creation. At all times during your life, you have been choosing, you have been recognizing as you walk through a situation, there is a voice inside of you crying, not crying, saying, every step of the way, this is what I love, this is what I prefer. And you, in your small self, may not have been paying attention. Maybe instead of focusing wherever your inner being is trying to say, I love this, focus here. You don't focus there because, well, I used to not focus in the direction of my love because I didn't know how to get what I loved. There were human beings that I had crushes on, that I really wanted them to be mine, and they never were. There were situations that I wanted to draw to me, but I didn't understand how to do it, so I didn't. And life was hard for a minute. My biggest love was love of nature and love of this planet and love of animals. And that was the hardest one of all to look at in any kind of big way, because we are undergoing sixth mass extinction. And if you start looking at the specifics of what's going on the planet, ecosystems are being destroyed. Human beings are clumping in with their bulldozers and their forest shredders and doing things that when I would turn to look at them, it would bring me to my knees, and I couldn't look at current events. I couldn't look at the reality of the world anymore. I couldn't face it. And so I looked in other directions. Actually, I have done this a number of times, peered into a dark spot to a point where then I just couldn't look anymore, and I had to turn away because I care how I feel, and I can't keep going into darkness. But I've studied it was always darkness that I studied. Isn't it weird? The Holocaust and Nazis, that was a fascinating subject for me. In my 20s, I delved quickly into a number of subjects. And what I mean by that is doing very measured, small doses of methamphetamine, keeping me from going to sleep. Well, I still went to sleep because it wasn't like I was partying and, but you could stay up for a long period of time and think, you could get the momentum of a subject going for a long time, because if 16 seconds and then another, whatever, by the time you got into a minute, well, if you're looking at a topic for a few days, I'd go into the library and I'd come out with like 10 books, as many as I could carry, on whatever subjects I was interested in. And the ones I delved in were, so always the Holocaust, but also cults. The phenomenon of cults and cult leaders. I remember being fascinated with the Jim Jones. And there was another one that people haven't even heard of now, but it was a big deal back then because it was a big bloody affair, but it happened in northern Mexico, didn't happen in America. It was the story of Orville LeBaron and the Lambs of God. It was an fundamentalist offshoot, a weird spirit fundamentalist offshoot of the Mormon religion. Polygamous sect that settled in northern Mexico because of laws and such, and it devolved into bloody assassination and massacre, and it was horrible. And there was a book in the library. I pulled that out, read it cover to cover. In 1972, my parents moved my brother and I and my sister for a little time to Kenya. It was right at the time when Idi Amin was in control of Uganda next door. And while we were living there, he kicked the Asians out of Uganda, and many of them passed through Kenya on their way to England or back to India, wherever they had to go somewhere, and many of them settled in Kenya too. But so there were books about him, Idi Amin, and his, I can't remember what the name of that book was, that I read from cover to cover too, about Idi Amin and his regime, and it was horrifying, absolutely horrifying. Another subject I got into was toxic waste dumping. I read a book or two about that. There was a really good one about a name written by, I can't remember what his first name was, last name was Brown, and the name of the book was Laying Waste, and it was really good. And it made me just feel all these big emotions about the planet, about us as a people, about the plight in wholeness. I didn't really have a lot of emotions about my own specific, I did. I have another story, a romantic story of the beginning of my maturation from that level, but I'm not going to share that one with you today. It's just too weird. But it explains a lot about why I'm strange and why I feel compelled to do this show, to stand on this pulpit, kind of, and preach to us all. Who are we? What are the possibilities that we have on planet Earth? Well, and we're just going to come at it from a pure positive perspective. We're not going to come at it from a resistant perspective. We're not going to come at it from a, well, what happens if we don't kind of perspective. Or, yeah, but those people, they're so negative. We're not going to, negative people are not our concern or our business or anything. We're just going to talk about possibilities. So first of all, the first possibility that we must understand, and it will change our civilization, and it's so simple, and it's funny, it's not secret anymore, and yet people don't really understand it, and they have not grasped the implications, the full implications that are going to bloom for humanity when these implications are grasped. Over unity is physically possible. Now, in order to achieve it, you got to have a device that has some clever way of doing it. And if you want some ideas, go watch the movie The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. I bang the drum of that one every day because it's important. Go watch that movie. Get yourself some ideas. They had one dude he had a device that he tuned, and when he got it tuned, it was locked into the frequency and resonating with the magnetic, electromagnetic field of the planet. And that somehow was producing voltage, and that you could plug in, that you could run your technologies on. And another guy had, and it wasn't in that movie, in a different movie, the Thrive 2 movie. Now, the Thrive movies have a mixed bag, because a lot of it, they are pointing in a negative direction, and they're sort of pointing at people who are responsible for certain structures that are not conducive to non-resistant human flow. And on the one hand, they're not incorrect, but we really have to get to a point this time where we do not pillory those responsible for where we are, but rather we all come to a collective understanding, each individually. So you don't have to worry about what other people are doing, you just do it yourself. Come to a recognition that we are one being on this planet. There's only one of us here. And it is humanity with a capital H. We are a superorganism. And the way that it works is, and we're so lucky to live in this time where we can look at the field and just go, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to contribute? What do I want? What value do I want to add to the human equation? And in doing so, I get my little golden ticket that allows me to shop on the buffet. The buffet of the supply stream of humanity, which includes foodstuffs, technologies, experiences, like a plane trip is kind of an experience. It's also transportation, which is another thing you could think of. That energy is another thing we trade for on this supply chain. And you know what? If you can invent an over-unity device, you have energy to trade. Now, it's going to be pretty quick that people realize that they don't have to buy energy from you. What they need is a piece of that technology so that they can make it for themselves. They do not need to buy your energy and pipe it into their house through wires. They just need to have a device that plugs them into the energy, and then they plug their devices into this device. So the energy conglomerates are going to go away. But those who produce the technology, those will still be powerful on this planet, because we have a lot of work to do before we transform the systems that we've got going now to the systems that are coming in the future. The systems that... So it sort of dismays me to see us collectively spending all of our treasure updating current airport systems instead of, well, I guess we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but we're going to be transforming. We're going to have gravity control. We really are. I know we will. Because it comes from an understanding of what gravity is, which has not been so for the last 100 years. We have been working on the assumption that gravity is an effect caused by the curvature of space-time, caused by the presence of massive objects in the space. Because in a way it kind of looks like that. But what it really is the curvature of space-time caused by the spinning of the field. The whole field is spinning, and the whole field spinning is the answer to this 96%. Where is 96% of the energy? Where is 96% of the mass, or whatever the dark mass and dark energy, whatever those percentages are, that's really large? The greatest proportion of energy and mass we can't see, we don't know where it is. We call it dark energy and dark mass. Dark matter, dark energy. But it isn't that at all. It is the field spinning together. The whole field. It's massive energy. And it's everywhere. And when we understand this structure and understand who we are within it, then will we be peaceful unto this planet. Then will we be harmonious with one another, each individual allowed to choose their own path based on who they are, what they want, what their individual desire is, what their individual positive ideas are, who they really are. Now, imagine what a world like that would look like. Everyone free to choose. Well, we actually are here in this country. We are free to choose. But we are free to choose within the parameters of reality boundaries that we have going on all around us, you know. It's not given to you on a silver platter. You have to figure it out. It's a puzzle. And then you have to work the puzzle. You have to work the energies, which are like levers in a starship that you are flying through the cosmos. And the levers of this starship have to do with your positive and negative energies. You can pull on the positive or the negative. That's what you've got to work with, positive and negative. And how do they even work? It has to do with thoughts that you take in your own mind. It is your thoughts that you are taking that are producing your positive and negative emotions. It is your beliefs, because a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So it's a thought that you keep thinking that is causing your negative emotions. Could be a thought that you keep thinking, or it could be a thought that you're thinking in this moment. That's actually what you want to get it down to, boil it down to, so that the thoughts that you keep thinking, the ones you are constantly thinking, your beliefs are all positive. So that running track in the background of your belief system is all positive. Now, you can still have a knee-jerk in the moment negative reaction to something that happens in physical conditions. I had one of those the other day. I actually threw a little bit of a fit for a moment. I threw a tantrum. I screwed up my eyes and I shouted for a minute. But you know what? I came down pretty quick because my belief systems in the background, the ones that are running, that are the ones running all the way through my operating system from the top and my primary assumptions and all of their subsequent branches that go down from there are all positive now. I have only positive beliefs as far as the thoughts I keep thinking. The ones I keep thinking running in the background, they're all positive. I can have a negative one in a moment, in a reaction to something that happens around me in a moment, but it doesn't throw me off my game, and I immediately weave it back into the positive as soon as my initial reaction is past. This allows me to have honest interaction with the actual conditions around me, so I'm not just, oh, everything's lovely all the time, no matter what. It's always good. It's always good. It's always good. I don't have to do that. I can honestly go, oh, don't like that. Ooh, love that. I can go like that, don't like that, without it dragging me into negative spaces. Do you see what I mean? It's so important to go find your negative beliefs, examine them, and then ultimately replace them with their counterpart in the positive. There's something about it that you're believing that is not wrong exactly, but you've got it turned around. And so your beliefs are up there in your operating system, those thoughts that twirl this is what the world is, this is how it works, this is who I am, this is how I work, this is my this is the way you operate, and all of those kinds of thoughts way high up on the top of your operating system hierarchy within you, because your consciousness runs like a computer. You have a computer. And when you line your computer up with what your inner being knows to be true about the world, now you can look at it from what you think about the world too. I have my own ideas. My inner being's got hers, and I've got mine, and we intersect in this place where, we're kind of bopping the two of us together, but I'm not holy like she is. I'm not pure and completely without any resistance whatsoever. I have resistance. I want fossil fuel to be a thing of our past, a thing of our history that we talk about in our museums. And we have examples of this noxious technology, and all of its foulness over there in the corner. See what we used to do? And now, but it got us to a point where we could begin to imagine something else, even faster, even better, even more powerful. We could imagine that. And fossil fuel got us to there. So we don't curse it, but we don't imagine that it's what we should do now either, any more than we think we should be fueling our society with whale oil, or so what's the problem with fossil fuels? It's the carbon footprint. It's the burning of it. It's the extraction of it, the destruction of the land as you suck it out of the ground, or the danger to the oceans as you suck it out of the floor of the ocean. And companies, in their quest for profit, are allowed to do this without technical guidelines in place to make sure that these valves don't get stuck wide open, pouring oil into the Gulf and such things. That's where the problem is. All of that's a problem, and it's come to be an insurmountable problem. There's probably upwards of going on, if not actually going on 8 billion people on this planet, and no reason to believe that it isn't going to make it to 10 unless we collapse the system. And we could collapse the system unless we understand who we are and lean into the truth of who we are. Build our systems on the truth of who we are. And what is the truth? It has to do with a frequency of data stream and loving connection and win-win vibrations. It's not a win-lose paradigm. When you play the game as a win-lose paradigm, all you do is create a whole bunch of losers. You might even create a field of almost half to be losers. Win-lose, win-lose. It's not win-lose. Let's play it win-win. That's how nature plays it, win-win. Those who cooperate with the most others live to eat another day, and all of that. So I realized yesterday when I was doing the show, if you happen to be the one person who listened to me, I was working on the 5 laws of the universe, and I don't think I made it through all of them. I didn't make it all the way to the end. The first one is you exist, nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. The all are one, and the one is all. And the only actionable one there is what you put out is what you get back. So that one has to do with you, what you are doing. And the rule there is whatever frequency that you are broadcasting, what your vibrational offering to the universe is, on that frequency will the rendezvous circle back around and start meeting with you. So whatever that which is like unto itself is drawn. If you're on the Henri channel, then you're joining the Henri clubs. You've joined the Henri political party. You've banded together with others, pointing at what you believe is the problem, who's to blame, all of that. That's what you're doing. And you are rendezvousing with them. If you are on the peaceful, loving, I want to have fun, I think human beings are amazing, let's co-create something amazing together, then maybe you're in Hollywood working with Steven Spielberg on the latest cool creation going on over at, who knows, Pixar, Disney. You get the idea. You have control of your own ship, and that's the only control you have. Quit thinking you have control over the field around you. The only control you have over the field around you is you have influence. You have influence. Your own personal what's the word? Alignment with your own personal vibrational inner being, your own coherence, if you will, with your own personal spin and your own life. Your own personal coherence has influence over the field towards coherence. Your chaos influences the field to chaos. That's the power you have. So you can't get out there and force people to think right and get it right. You know, you can't stand on your soapbox purely and just speak words until the world gets it. Not quite. We're getting to a place where there is a level of understanding where I can now start to do this. But you still end up in an area where it's pure feeling and vibration, and it's almost like the land of poetry. You have to take those words into poetry so people can start feeling this vibration of connection you're talking about, this one that connects you to all others. It comes back to me to the question, who am I? And how many jillions of ways you can answer that question. You know, I am my job. You know, I never say that one anymore. I am a housewife. I used to be a bartender for 12 years. I've been a travel agent. I've been, oh Lord, I had some other things. My biggest thing was bartender, waitress, cocktail waitress, food waitress, fancy food waitress, bartender. My last job, though, was travel agent for someone who worked for the government. But that's all neither here nor there. The who am I question goes so much deeper than just your own individual specific answer, because all 8 billion of us have a different answer to that part of it. But there's an aspect of us that really, really overlays. There's a Venn diagram connection between us, that when you look at that part, who are we? Who am I as a human species? How does the human species work? How do my emotions work? Well, I'll tell you how they work. When you think a thought, because you are two beings, you are two beings. That greater being that you are, it's not somebody else being that. It's you being that, thinking long thoughts through the brain patterns of the conventional self that you are. You are a long-term thinker too. You know the bigger picture. You know who you really are, because an aspect of yourself has been, without interruption, connected to the reality of who you are for all of eternity. You know you are the Planck field, able to form yourself into anything that you desire through focus and attention. And so the idea is to learn to focus your attention upon your desire. Now, that sounded like a very simple sentence, but I meant it very, very clearly. I meant, don't focus on what you don't want. You have to get clear about what you do want in reality, in this real world. What's really here, you have to get clear. But the way you do it is not by focusing on the material. Don't focus outwardly on the material world. Focus inwardly on yourself to find your desire. Focus there. Focus there in faith. Focus there in allowance. rest there. Focus there in an easy way, like not, I'm focusing, I will apply my focus until and the intensity of my gaze will bring it into being. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. The intensity of your gaze as you try to force it to come into being. That's sort of how we imagine that magic is done. You know, you take your wand and you focus your attention in that direction and then you make it happen. But that's not what I'm talking about. It's an inward focus as you gently get in touch with your love. Your love is where it is. And you can go into that and flesh it out. You can get really specifically clear about what you love. And don't you know, what you love is who you are. So it's really important as you live your life, as you move from one condition to another. So I live here and now I live there, and I really liked that, and now I don't like. You need to not be conditional. That is not helpful. Nobody needs to be told what not to do, because you can't go from that position and go, okay, well, I just won't do that anymore, because you'll just do that. So what am I saying? Abraham puts it this way. She says, only think about what you want. Only think about what you want. Only think about what you want. Don't cross it with a but, you know. So if a but like, well, the but might be this, and this is where you have to get clear. The but might be, this is what I want, but I'm not sure if that really is what I want. You know, because, so back it up to spirits. Don't translate it into physicality immediately on the at the end point. What am I saying? Pull it back to the general and get really clear about what you want from a general standpoint. Like, I want, very clearly, I want my family to get along with one another. In some ways, we are very tight and very close, and my girls have not made it far from my side yet. And none of us have made it out of Albuquerque, you know. And I'm, up until fairly recently, I have not been clear that I wanted to experience something else. So that's part of the process of getting clear. So I want us to get along. I want to feel good about what we're all doing. I want prosperity. I want, and you know, there's general specific things that are specific to me. Like, I love an area that's got lots of trees and nature nearby. I don't like an urban jungle. Some people do. Some people, they thrive there. So there are things specific to you, and so you line up all these aspects that you want, these spirits that you want. I want things that I want to be true about my house, and things that I want to be true about, I don't know. We're going to see whether we can line up something in our lives. I want to make something happen in our lives. I want to organize something, but I want it to organize in a particular way, and I want it to feel a particular way when we get through with it. And I don't care exactly what it looks like as long as it feels really good. And I want to make sure that it has elements of beauty and nature and freedom and opportunity and choices and expansion and connection, you know? So that's what I'm talking about. Get clear in all of that. Now, hatch within yourself some sort of a beginning idea and let your physical mind jack you up about it until you gotten to a point where you're eager to go act. And then act from that as far as you can go until it peters out. Maybe it was just a small thing. It had to do with a marvelous recipe that you were excited about trying. And so you went and you did it, and you cooked it, and you ate it, and you washed the dishes, and now you got to look somewhere else because that one's done. But you keep working on this ability to find where your interest is, where your desire is, where your excitement is, where you're interested in something, where you have a desire for something that you want. Is there anything that you want? And if you can't think of it in big ways, think of it in little ways and start practicing the art of moving in little ways towards what you want. And you will open up bigger and bigger and bigger ways. If you keep focusing on the big ways that you can't move, then you'll short circuit your whole system and you'll end up stewing in a place where I want it, but I want it, but I want it, but I want it, but, and you'll die that way, bitter and disappointed. And I don't want to do that. And I don't want that for my family. I don't want that for my loved ones. I don't want it for you, frankly. I don't want it for all of us. I want us to understand how our circuits work, how our vibrational circuits work, so that we can live more in joyful harmony with one another, where we can allow one another to be who we are, whoever we are, even if you're wrong. And the reason that I need to allow you to be wrong, even if you're wrong, although I still would love to share this show with you and enlighten you if I could, is because we are a wholeness, and the aspects of you that you are displaying have to do with my scattered schizophrenia. Humanity is schizophrenic. All of us are scattered. It's like they took all of who we are and shook us up and scattered us. And we need to pull ourselves back together in wholeness, in reality too. In physicality, our systems need to be aligned as though we were one being. Not, the privilege, the haves and the have-nots. But we are all in this together. And I think that universal, clean, free energy for everyone is going to really do the trick there. It's going to be a very equalizing factor. No longer will any nation have to sell their soul to the International Monetary Fund in order to join the 21st century, in order to have power and technology and be able to call their own future and their own destiny. They do not have to sell their soul to the international marketplace of, it's actually a fairly neutral thing out there. It's also a really blessed thing. I feel the quality of life for an individual human these days is so much better than it was 100 years ago. You really have no sense of how much better it's gotten. Now, the more we degrade the environment and the more that we head towards our, apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic hellscapes, the less better it's getting. The more we don't understand who we are and continue to move in the wrong direction for a minute, the less better it's getting. But we do have a trajectory towards the expansive, the expanding, I just realized something. I tried to go through the 5 laws and I stopped at the only actionable one. What you put out is what you get back. And the 5th one, I have to finish it now. It took me 3 days to finish this. The 5th one is everything changes except for the laws. Those are the 5 rules of... that was from much earlier. So if you, by any chance, just clicked in, and nobody's going to do that. I have a very small core of regular viewer. Sometimes it reaches a half a dozen these days, but the big hit doesn't happen anymore. I have 62 subscribers, and they're holding with me, and I appreciate that. But I don't have any new viewers because the live stream hasn't been working. I have an issue, and my IT person has not been available to help me with it. She helped me get online, but then immediately I had this issue, and she was not able to come back and help me with it, so I still have the issue, and I'm sorry. So I do this for myself. I claim I do this for myself because it is my intention to continue every day, get stronger and stronger in my own personal recognition of where my problems come from. My personal problems come from when I do not listen to the inner being who always knows best. My inner being knows best because she is literally in touch with the physical world. She knows where the molecules are, how they are moving, what temperature they are, where they were a minute ago, where they were 5 minutes ago, where they were 10 minutes ago, where they were 1,000,000 years ago, and the continuum of the flow from then until now. She knows all of that. She knows where every one of my cells are and how my blood is flowing and where the wind is blowing and how the leaves are falling, and she knows everything. And so since she knows all of this, knows where I am on the grid, she knows where my larger goals are. She knows what I have been wanting. She knows where my loving heart is. She knows what I care about because she is love. She is love. So I'm going to disagree with her? I'm never going to disagree with her. Not ultimately. Now, in this moment, I may disagree with her just in this sense. I might be like, I know, inner being, that you really didn't have a problem with that because you don't have a problem with anything. But I had a little bit of a problem with that, and that's okay. I don't have to like being cheated, for instance. I don't have to like, any of the number of things that I could say specifically that I don't like. My inner being sees the wholeness of the picture and recognizes that piece in that part of the pattern, recognizes how it kind of has to be that way because of the rest of it, but is not thrown off by its existence because, for instance, the more we go into war, the more our inner being knows that it is a question of us not putting the puzzle together. We don't know who we are. We aren't identifying correctly. If we would just identify correctly, boom, our problems would go away. She knows that. And she actually knows that our problems are going to go away because this feedback loop, this feedback system, feed-forward feedback of the universe learning about itself through us and us learning about ourselves through the universe, it's just the way the universe works. And so this peaceful place that our experience of war is taking us to, it is coming. I see why Abraham says, you can't, the expansion is happening. You can either flow with it, be conscious of it, and assist it. You can be unaware of it, resistant of it, and slow it down. But either way, it's coming. We are all expanding together. The universe is expanding, and we are part of its expansion. So, but don't look at it conditionally. You are you, whether you are on this planet or some other planet or in some other body or whatever. You are you. You exist, and nothing will ever change that. You exist. You are here. And you are part of the whole thing. So what do I really, sometimes my riffs can take me into places where in my imagination I can see pictures of the structure of my consciousness and, the lattice connection, I don't know. And then I can describe it. But it's like just me and my imagination. It isn't... It's just my perspective. I don't want to pedantically push this on anybody. It's just what it looks like from where I'm standing. And I would like to hear what it looks like from where everybody's standing. And I would like us to put it all together. And let's play with one another. Let's joyfully understand this whole project that we are all part of, and let's work it out efficiently and logically and compassionately and joyfully and playfully and beautifully. We can do it. I know we can, because of who we are. So who are we? We are a genetically modified species, and our genetic modification, somebody thought to grant us a great gift, a great advancement, a powerful tool. But it's only a powerful tool when we understand how it works. And when we don't understand how it works, it is a tremendous destructive force. Negative beliefs, negative thoughts, our own system, when negative beliefs are embedded up in the top of the operating system, the human being becomes a very powerfully destructive force. And we have to watch that. We have to understand that, and we have to learn how to align ourselves correctly with who we really are. Who we really are is not angry. Who we really are is not vengeful, is not blameful, is not guilty, is not ashamed, is not afraid, is not any of those things. And if you have beliefs that are bound up with those negative thoughts, then maybe you need to go in and find them. Like if you believe that I should think about this one some more. All the potential negative beliefs that people might have. Well, I'm not worthy. Well, you are worthy, and I don't care who you are. I don't even have to know what you've done, what sins you've committed, because it doesn't have anything to do with the sins you've committed. And even the whole idea of sin is sort of a social way of getting people to quit looking at the wholeness of us and start paying attention to my own specific self in blame and judgment. Because if I can start blaming myself, then I am socially disempowered and easy to control. When you start believing in the power of the human being, the power of yourself, the power of your positive inner core as it connects to all the rest of humanity and all of the rest of the biofield, when you start standing on that very, very strong foundation, well, it feels really good. And your path starts opening up in front of you. Who am I? What do I want to do with my life? What do I care about? What do I love? Who am I? Who am I? And I think that's a lovely place to end. I am coming right up on an hour. I think I'm going to be doing hour-long shows for a little while. I think the hour-long time period feels right to me for the moment, until and unless I get a different mission feel for what my show is. Like I said, I don't know what my show is. Am I going to be teaching everyone about the structure and nature of the universe? Or am I going to be assuming the structure and nature of the universe and riffing past that? I don't know. We're going to find out. It all depends when I can get people actually into the room and responding to me in real time as I go. I might get some feedback. People, saying, no, stop here and teach me for a minute. Or, no, we're up to speed. Riff on, But I need people in the room for that, and I don't have them yet because I need my tech support. So, I'm going to call it a day. I'll be back tomorrow. I don't have any reason to believe I won't be. So, I hope you do your best between now and then, and I hope you'll come back and be with me again as I try to do this again and again and again. Who am I? Who am I? We're going to solve the problems of humanity. We really are. We're going to solve them. We're going to free us from fossil fuel. We're going to inject humanity with a whole new jolt of energy, literal energy and emotional energy. All of it. We're going to do all of that. Give me 5 or 10 years on this platform. I promise you we're going places. Until tomorrow, when I hope you will come back and see me again. Until then, may the source be with you.